First of all, the fact that this is a Joe Rogan podcast, so the guest is going to be amazing, and then the guest is Quentin Tarantino. If there is one guest you can have whom you should allow to talk, that's Quentin Tarantino. For somebody who listens to him for the first time, would feel that he's so aggressive, so confident, and all of that. And when you hear him again and again talking about his various movies, then you realize, oh no, this is not just a person who is passionate, etc., etc., etc. He is a person who really loves the movies and is sort of a student and expert at the same time. I mean, when you take Martin Scorsese, I mean, someone like Martin Scorsese, I mean, great director, restores films, encyclopedia of films. So somebody like that, amazing, what a guy. And then he has that mannerism of speaking, superb. So let's quickly look at this video talking about the Bruce Lee controversy from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if I'm not wrong. Let's start.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Another thing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that got controversial was the Bruce Lee scenes. Yeah, a lot of people felt like you made Bruce Lee into an asshole.
Yeah, well, okay, that's okay. I'm a little hesitant to talk about this because I don't want like this to be the only thing, all right, that people pull from this show. But I figured you were going to bring it up especially because I've heard you guys go back and forth on it in a little bit. I mean, where I'm coming from is I can understand his daughter having a problem with it. It's her fucking father, all right? I get that. But anybody else, go suck a dick.
Did you hear that response? He could have said anything, but first he said such a proper thing. Like, you know, there was a controversy involving Bruce Lee, so his daughter has the right to be offended or, you know, confusion, confrontation, whatever. The daughter is totally in her rights, but everyone else.
You know, and the thing about it though is, like, you know, even if you just look at it, it's obvious Cliff tricked him. That's how he was able to do it. He tricked him. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like it's explained more in the book, but the thing is, like, they do a 2 falls out of 3 contest. Mm-hmm. So Cliff loves shit like that, you know, and he has a method, and his method is to give the guy the first fall. Okay.
Did you hear that? And now just understand the context. He's talking about a character in his film. He has this huge backstory about that character. What a writing genius or writing capability for that. I mean, and the way he explains his directing process, I have heard in other videos that he writes a complete book first with backstory and everything, and then treats it like a novel and adapts it as he goes along. So he's literally writing a novel for 2.5 years or whatever time period, and then goes on to make the movie. So that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that book, he can literally make it into a book. He can make Broadway plays. He can put it up on stage. He has already made a movie. I mean, there's just literally so many things. He can make individual movies, if I'm not wrong, on each of those characters. Simply insane, the kind of writing talent he has.
Do your fucking move, dude.
Right.
Let me see your move. All right. And he gives them no resistance whatsoever. The guy does the move. He knocks him on his ass. And Cliff, and there's like 4 different ways Bruce could have come at him the second time that Cliff would have had very little defense against. But most of the time, if a guy has a particular move and it looks like the guy's a lunkhead, just a big mouth, who can't really defend himself, they do the second move again. I mean, they do the first move again, the second time. Well, now Cliff knows what it is. So he prepares for it, he pivots, he catches him, he throws his ass into the car.
Right.
You know, and now the third time will be the charm and he gets broken up. But he just tricked him. And Bruce realized he got tricked. If Cliff hadn't been so vicious, he could have even appreciated it.
Do you know about the history of Bruce Lee and
Gene LaBelle? Yeah, of course.
Did you research that before?
Yeah, well, I've always known it and everything. Right. And like, well, the stuntmen hated Bruce
Really?
On Green Hornet. No, it's in Matthew Polly's book, and before that, it's always been known. That's why Gene LaBelle was brought on to teach Bruce respect for American stuntmen. Bruce had nothing but disrespect for stuntmen, and he was always hitting them. He was always hitting them with his feet. He was always tagging. It's called tagging. When you hit a stuntman for real. And he was always tagging him with his feet, and he was always tagging him with his fist, and they got to be the point where like, no, I refuse to work with him.
Really?
And he had nothing but disrespect for American stuntmen.
Huh. That's interesting. I wonder what that was about. I wonder what his perspective would have been if somebody asked him to explain it.
It's like, they're just not good enough. They're pussies. I want to make it look real.
Okay. So he was hitting him to make it look real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't like that.
No.
That's unprofessional.
Well, that is unprofessional, but that's been done before in a bunch of movies by people that people say are assholes.
Yeah, and actually somebody else who had a reputation pretty similar to Bruce Lee's in that regards was like Robert Conrad.
Oh yeah.
During that time, yeah. And he did a lot of his own stunts, and he did some really, really gnarly shit. But and I've always been a big fan of Robert Conrad, but in the stunt community, he was known as Robert never met a stuntman he couldn't blame, Conrad.
The stunt world is a fucking crazy world because they're the people that occasionally die making movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is just nuts.
And look,
I can't believe this story about Bruce Lee. I remember 2010-11. I was watching so many movies of Bruce Lee's, and then I watched which movie was that? Early 1990s movie. The guy plays Bruce Lee. Insane actor. I must have seen that movie on repeat for like 5 days or 6 days. And there was this song in that movie, California Dreaming. All the leaves are green, or all the leaves are... Something like that, that tune went. And it was such an incredible movie. And from there I learned about how he got injured and etc. etc. Then he founded Jeet Kune Do, if I'm not wrong. And then I learned about that philosophy. I started reading about it. I was just obsessed. I remember taking printouts. That's such a great image of Bruce Lee. And then this story I hear, and it seems like they're two different people. But could be his early years. Everybody is arrogant.
And the thing about it is also, Cliff is a hand-to-hand combat killer. He fought in World War II. He fought with the Filipino resistant fighters, in the Philippines against the Japanese. If Cliff fought Bruce Lee at one of Aaron Banks's Madison Square Garden tournaments, Cliff wouldn't stand a chance against Bruce Lee at a Madison Square Garden martial arts tournament. But as a killer who has killed men before in a jungle, he'd kill Bruce Lee.
Good God. This is still not a real subject. He's still talking about characters, fictional characters. Look at the depth of explanation and imagination. The background of it. Incredible. What a writing. This has to be inborn, right? Given by God, God-given talent.
He'd fucking kill him. Bruce Lee's not a killer. Bruce Lee's never really let loose on anybody. He's always had to keep it together in a martial arts tournament kind of way. If he's actually facing a guy who could actually kill him, it's a different story. It's in the book. Bruce Lee realizes when Cliff takes a hand-to-hand, a military hand-to-hand combat stance, he realizes, oh shit, this guy's a killer. This guy's not fighting me. He's fighting his instinct to kill me.
Catch new episode.
Incredible, the kind of explanation that he gives. Still can't believe he was talking about imaginary characters that he wrote. This is the explanation that he has. Joe looked like he wanted to defend Bruce Lee more, but decided it wasn't worth turning the whole podcast into this topic. Exactly, and Quentin Tarantino wouldn't have given up. For a director and film producer, I don't believe Quentin didn't know the difference between America and Asia stunt filming at the time. Asia has a lot more physical contact in their filming to create realism, and more stuntmen and actor accepted and agreed to it. In James Bond's Tomorrow Never Dies, Michelle Yeoh said in an interview that Western producers wanted her to work with her own team because of her former work. Fight scene was more intense than originally planned. They did it in far less takes because the team knows and trusts each other. Bruce Lee at his time wanted the same impact and effect in his Western movies, which the Western stuntmen did not like or want. A lot of Asian stuntmen, including Jackie Chan, who worked with Bruce Lee, knew and expected it. If you ever grew up watching 70s, 80s, 90s Asian martial arts movies, a lot had outtakes at the end showing injuries and failed stunts from all the members of the team as a way to show the world, look everyone, we did this for you. Amazing. Somebody who knows something different than Quentin Tarantino. That's weird because I've read articles about how Lee was super kind. Exactly, this was my experience also, and gracious with those beneath him, stuntmen in particular. Those that worked with him said he would treat them to meals on set, take them out for dinners, even loan money if they fell on hard times. Seems like a pretty awesome guy. LaBelle said, I went and worked out with Lee at his school. I taught him judo, wrestling, stuff like that, and some finishing holds, which he later worked into some movies. And he showed me most of the kicks and striking, which even today I use in the movies. A wonderful, wonderful man and a great martial artist. Seems contradictory. That's the great thing about Quentin. When you hear him, he is so convinced of his story, of his own, of the narrative, that it seems like, yes, this is the truth. And this is such an epic quality to have. I mean, for success, at least. This is what happens when Quentin Tarantino mistakes his knowledge of cinema for knowledge of everything. To say that Bruce Lee was not trained and knowledgeable on the ways that he could kill people is absolutely absurd. This is interesting to hear. I always looked at Cliff reminiscing on his past as he worked on the antenna as an untrustworthy narrator situation where his memory outshines the reality of the past. In China, it was expected that stuntmen took the hit and didn't complain, whereas in the States, they tried to avoid getting hit if possible. That's why he was tagging them. It's what was expected from these stuntmen in his culture. Jackie Chan talked about it also and how he had to adapt to it because he used to be a stuntman. Amazing. People are so knowledgeable. It's incredible. I think I have to stop the video now. There's a lot of noise in the background. I hope you enjoyed the video.